Ladies and gentlemen, Bil Lepp.
A campaign that I've been working on for some time, and this is in no way endorsed by, the International Plumbers Union or anything like that, but I want to talk about an emotion that I think all of us have felt somewhere along the way, but it's an emotion that we don't have a name for, and I will describe the event in which this happens, and then possibly you and I can brainstorm later to come up with a name for this emotion. When this emotion occurs, it only occurs at someone else's house. It never occurs at your house. And it's always someone else's house, and that someone is important to you in some way. Maybe you're at your girlfriend's parents' house, or your boss's house, or the White House, or Buckingham Palace at special invitation of the Queen. That's when these things happen. And the emotion always happens in the bathroom. You're standing there looking at the toilet. The waters are swirling around, but they're not going anywhere. And you're thinking to yourself, I have just perpetrated the worst plumbing disaster in modern plumbing history. You think, how am I going to get myself out of that? I don't want to go out there and tell these people what I've just done in here. And so you look to see if there's a window, and you think, can I survive a jump from the second story? Could I live the rest of my life down in Colombia? Would that be all right? And then you can imagine your broken body laying on the sidewalk below, and your friends and loved ones standing around you, and someone says, well, after what he did to your bathroom, I think he got what's coming to him. And you're standing there thinking, if only someone had invented some sort of tool with which I could force pressure down the pipe, force pressure against the occlusion and break it free so this water could drain. And that's when you remember the plunger. And you think, what genius invented the plunger? What genius was standing there over the toilet, looking at the waters, thinking to him or herself, you know what, if I had a 3-foot piece of threaded broom handle and a boob-shaped piece of rubber, I bet I could get myself out of this situation. But it's not just that they thought about it, they went ahead and invented it too. So I was at my mother-in-law's house, and I was standing in their bathroom looking down at the swirling waters of the toilet. Now, I have been in-law to my in-laws for 14 years. I've known them for 16 years, but I still didn't want to go out there and say to my mother-in-law, do you have a plunger? And I had to steel myself to do it, though. And what occurred to me, I put my hand on the door to go out and talk to my mother-in-law. We call her Mimi. And as soon as I asked the question, I said, Mimi, do you have a plunger? And as soon as I asked that question, I realized when you ask that question, no one ever responds by saying, why? They just know. But I said, Mimi, do you have a plunger? And my little nephew Glenn was standing there beside her, and he said, what's a plunger? That's one of those uncle moments where I was like, go ask your mother. And my mother-in-law is really this sweet, sort of demure, quiet, southern woman. She's, all together, and she's the kind of lady that might throw tea. And so I said to her, Mimi, do you have a plunger? She thought about it for a minute, and then she said, my father-in-law's name is Glenn. He was on the other side of the house. She said, Glenn, we got a plunger? My father-in-law from the other end of the house goes, no, but I think there's one at the church. So now I got to go to the church to get the plunger. And this is Holly Bluff, Mississippi. This town has maybe 100 people, and they all know each other. Everybody knows everybody's business, and right now my business is bad. So I don't want to go to the church. On top of all of that, people know me in this town. I've been coming to this town for 16 years, but they only know me in context. And I know we're in the giant metropolis of Atlanta right now, but if you've ever been to a small town, people know you in context. I am not Bil Lepp in Holly Bluff, Mississippi. I am Glenn Gordon's oldest daughter's husband. That's who I am. And Glenn Gordon's oldest daughter's husband has no right to break into the back of the Holly Bluff Baptist Church on a Sunday afternoon between services, but my mother-in-law had explained to me how to break into the fellowship hall so I could go get a plunger. So I went in the back door, and I was thinking, any minute now, the committee of old ladies who want to be angry about something are going to show up and find me and call the state troopers, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to have to explain to the fellas in the pen how I broke into the Baptist church so I could get a plunger, and my life is going down the drain, pun intended. And I I went in the men's bathroom, and I looked everywhere. No plunger. I thought, I gotta look in the women's restroom. I don't want to, but I got to. And I go and I look in the women's restroom, and there, behind the toilet, was a plunger. But it was one of those little short-handled plungers, and I asked myself, who thought that the plunger would be more effective if we shortened the handle? Then I thought, well, of course it's a Baptist church, full immersion all the way. So I took the plunger home, and I solved the problem there at my mother-in-law's house. And this story really doesn't have an end. It's more of a plea, more of a crusade. I just ask you, on your way home today, stop at a local hardware store, a mom-and-pop hardware store if you can find it. You don't have to go to a superstore, but go to a hardware store on the way home and buy a plunger for every bathroom in your house. Thank you.